Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's Friday. Thanks for tuning in to O'Connor and Company. We're going to end your week strong and launch you into this weekend the right way as we continue to have a front row seat at this new, amazing Trump administration, Trump 2.0, plowing full speed ahead at breakneck speed. It's 7:35. Ian Pryor from Northern Virginia is going to talk about how the executive orders having to do with education and gender are going to affect Northern Virginia schools, like it or not. 8:05, Raymond Arroyo down in New Orleans will give us a preview of the Super Bowl. And then at 8:35, Brett Baer, Fox News Channel. That's Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning. Happy Friday, everybody.
It is a Friday, unless you're one of the 13,706 employees of USAID who just learned they're probably not going to have a job any longer. That's right. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, has announced that USAID's staffing will now go from 14,000 to 294.
Wow.
That suggests maybe there was something broken over there. Mark Moyar, who is a history professor, chair of the military history at Hillsdale College, and author of the book Masters of Corruption. He was, for a time, the director of the Office of Civilian Military Cooperation at the U.S. Agency for International Development during the first Trump administration, and he joins us now. Professor, thanks for joining us.
Hey, great to be with you.
I mean, I saw your appearance on Jesse Waters on Fox News where you're sort of laying out exactly the kind of dysfunction that you witnessed over at USAID and some of the wasteful spending, some of the ridiculous woke nonsense that you had to deal with. Tell us, I think, most importantly, you saw it, you tried to do something about it, and then what happened?
Yeah, so I reported corruption, a criminal conflict of interest, which is all too common, where you have people inside the government helping people outside the government get contracts and then profiting from that. And so, I thought I was draining the swamp, but then instead of punishing the people engaged in the corruption, they came after me and suspended my security clearance and then fired me. And so it really is a case where the people who report the corruption are the targets.
Can I just follow up on when you said you reported it and then they came after you? Was this the Inspector General's office? Was this directly at the Office of OMB, the Department of Justice? Who exactly did you report it to, and then who was they who came after you?
So it was a combination of career bureaucrats, and it started in the Office of Security, which is who's in charge of security clearance. And this is one of the problems that you have. Is this security clearance office has little oversight, and they can take action without, they can suspend you without due process. They're supposed to then give you due process if they try to actually revoke your clearance, but instead of doing that, they convinced somebody that they were going to do it. And so there's just a huge web of shady bureaucratic actions they can do to get people pushed out.
Something that you also raised and something I worry about is, how do you ensure that the programs, the grants that, have been eliminated don't come back under the guise of priorities that, we would support. You talk about, their effective rebranding or marketing of certain grant programs as things that, I think regular normal people would find appropriate, but we're really just sinister ideological, things that were able to fly under the radar. So how can we prevent that from happening again across the federal agencies?
Yes, well, you've got to have much tighter supervision for one thing. And the first Trump administration, I think, often fell short in. That's why I think you're seeing this, very hands-on approach and removing a lot of staff. How many staff they will, ultimately have, we'll have to see. But clearly, last time there was too much trust put in the bureaucracy. Last time there were almost no political appointees for the first year. So, unfortunately, you can't trust a lot of these people, and they're going to push these woke agendas if they're not, tightly supervised.
It's amazing, Mr. Moyar, that there's some people in town who are sort of openly acknowledging, oh, sure, yeah, there's some waste and there's some fraud and there's some corruption over there. But USAID also does some very good things like, AIDS in Africa and malaria and things like that. And I have no doubt those are all worthy causes. So they're saying, well, instead of just ripping the whole thing out, go individually one by one and sort of in a very fine, refined way, just eliminate what's bad and keep what's good. Is that realistic? First of all, in Washington, D.C., in general, is that realistic? And specifically in this agency? Or do you suggest they do exactly what appears to be happening here, which is just rip the whole thing out, to tear it all down, and then piece by piece start adding back things that you think are worthy?
Yeah, so I think clearly Secretary Rubio has said there are some important things that need to be done. And, I think there has been some disagreement within the administration as to how rapidly, you could have taken a much more incremental approach. They've decided to pull things down more quickly, and then a lot of these staff, they're still on administrative leave, so they may be adding people back as they continue the review of this program. It is a bit, drastic, but at the same time, the abuses have been so severe that they clearly think that's what you have to do to fix things.
Mr. Moyar, you're the chair of the military history program over at Hillsdale College, so you know your stuff with regard to military history and U.S. military history. What do you say to people who look at what USAID has done, despite some of the worthy endeavors that they may have been funding, but when they say, ultimately, this is sort of a shadow intelligence agency running a separate foreign policy at times that even the president doesn't give authorization to. I've been hearing that said quite a bit, that they basically are running covert operations, or they set up programs that end up being covert operations for the CIA that a lot of people don't even know what's going on, that doesn't have much oversight.
Well, they don't do as much of that as they used to, thanks to congressional intervention in the 70s, and they're not, I think people sometimes give them more credit than they deserve in terms of competence, but they are...
what you're saying is they're not that smart. They're not smart enough to do that sort of thing.
No. What they do, I think, where they still are having political influences, they're funding a lot of media operations, which, you could argue that sometimes, you want media that's speaking, in favorable terms at the U.S., but oftentimes, these media are pushing things like trans rights and DEI, which, is maybe undermining other countries, and it makes our country look bad because most people in the world don't like these topics that we're pushing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I saw a report that the BBC is pretty upset. They're not going to get 8% of their budget thanks to these cuts. Just to end on a really fun note, we were talking a little bit about the story you shared when you first got there to USAID, the exercise that all of the staff members were forced to participate in. Do you want to just share that with folks so that we understand just how insane things are at this agency?
Yeah, it's called the Privilege Walk, and I never even had heard of it before I did it. But if you look, I looked into it later, and it's a radical left indoctrination tool to make you aware of your privilege, and so you're given an identity, and some people, I was this woman of Scandinavian descent, and then there was a white male, and then there was people of various disadvantaged groups, and then they read a statement and you walk forward or back if it applies. And so at the end, the white guy's at the front, and the as the white woman, I was second, and then you had all these different disadvantaged groups, and it was just a weird way to try to show that certain people are privileged and certain are not, which is of course central to this whole DEI and critical race theory worldview.
How did you feel being a white woman, Mark?
Well, it was. I felt privileged, I guess I should say. It was.
It is a privilege to be a white woman. All right, we'll leave it there.
Thank you so much, sir.
Tell all the great kids at Hillsdale we're thinking about them. I miss them. I was out there for a couple of weeks this fall. It was a blast. You're a very lucky man to be able to work and live in that campus.
Yeah, thank you.
It is. What is it? It's 7:15.
Making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1930.
Patrice, I have a question for you, and I want to give you a heads up. It's going to be a trick question. Let's see if you can maneuver your way around it. Are you ready?
Ready.
How much money from the federal budget with our tax dollars, how much money should be spent engineering transgender mice, rats, and monkeys?
Let's put a few $1 million towards that, right?
Really?
I think that feels about
you
right.
Think that's worthy? What's a few million between friends?
$1 million out of a budget of $6 trillion. I mean, yeah.
Exactly. It's a drop in the bucket. And in the end, at least you have something to show for it. You have a transgender mouse.
Now, I didn't, other than Mickey and Minnie, I didn't know mice dressed up, and I didn't know they had physical, sexual attributes, sex attributes, but maybe that's why we're funding this research.
You thought wrong. This came up thanks to the White Coat Waste Project. They put out a whole laundry list of the misuse of taxpayer dollars, and Representative Nancy Mace, who has been really seizing on the transgender issue lately, laid this out for us, including gender-affirming care for animals. Gender-affirming care for animals. She laid this out in the subcommittee meeting.
Okay.
Transgender lab rats and poisoned puppies, oversight of taxpayer-funded animal cruelty. Last year, the White Coat Waste Project exposed more than $10 million in taxpayer funds that were spent creating transgender mice, rats, and monkeys. DEI grants funded painful and deadly transgender experiments that forced lab animals to undergo invasive surgeries and hormone therapies at universities across the country. Now, during this hearing, she used the term tranny. She said something about tranny mice, I think, or tranny rats or something.
Boy.
That's when, now this is what I love the most. Jerry Connolly, congressman from Northern Virginia. He's sitting there silently as this laundry list of tens of millions of dollars spent on transgender surgical and chemical experimentation on animals is being detailed. And he's just sitting there passively. Sounds good to me. Everything's fine. Then the second Nancy Mace uses the word tranny, that's when he wakes up. That's when he gets outraged. He's not outraged about millions of dollars being spent. So listen to this exchange now between Jerry Connolly and Nancy Mace.
The gentlelady has used a phrase that is considered a slur in the LGBTQ community and the transgender community. And let me please finish without interruption. And
tranny. I don't really care. You want women's bathrooms, and I'm not going to have it.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Let
Disgusting.
the gentleman state his parliamentary inquiry. To me, a slur is a slur, and here in the committee, a level of decorum requires us to try consciously to avoid slurs. You just heard.
You don't have the last part. At the last part, the chairman, James Comer of Oversight, has to make a ruling on this. And he comes in and he says, well, I'm not really familiar with the latest politically correct terms here. I'll take it under advisement. Basically, what he's saying is, what, we're not allowed to say tranny anymore? What are you talking about?
Tranny.
Is this like Beetlejuice? If you say it 3 times, RuPaul pops up? Is that?
Oh my gosh. Okay, listen.
So there you go.
It's just so silly. It's just so silly, and that is why the left lost, and this is why they have 100%. Not figured it out yet.
100%. No, seriously, Northern Virginia, this is your congressman, Jerry Connolly, who is just fine with tens of millions of dollars being spent on this outrageous, ridiculous nonsense like transgender experiments
where
on
is
mice.
PETA?
But
Larry, where is PETA?
Yeah, thank you.
For these invasive,
I want to know from PETA.
Painful experiments on animals. Where is PETA?
Yeah. I don't know.
No, because they're becoming tranny mice, then it's okay.
That's right. The mice are just being their true, authentic selves, so it's okay. If Mickey wants to dress as Minnie, who are you to stand in the way?
That's what I was going to go. That's what it means?
That's
What about Tom from Tom and Jerry? What about Jerry from Tom and Jerry? He never wore
Oh, no,
clothes.
he
What
was
are we
just-
supposed to take from that?
That's true. He was just flat out gay. He wasn't trans. He was gay.
Oh my goodness.
Total gay mouse. That was the gayest mouse I've ever seen in my life. And a bit of an exhibitionist. You're right. A nude gay mouse.
Every day.
Wait, which one was the mouse? Jerry was the mouse.
Jerry
Tom
was
is
the
cat,
mouse. Tom was the
obviously.
cat. Yeah.
Tomcat. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Anyway, there you go. Jerry Donnelly is not going to get upset about any of that stuff. But if you dare use the word tranny, by the way, you know how I know tranny isn't a slur? Because I can say it, and I'm not going to get in trouble from the boss or from the FCC or anything. It's like, oh, you can't say tranny. It's like the N-word. No, it's not. You see, because
it's not.
we say N-word instead of actually saying the word because it is objectively offensive and rude and disgusting. But tranny is just, well, you take it from here, Nancy Mace. What is it? How does it go again?
Tranny.
That's what I thought. 723.
Making sense of your world.
I agree with everything you're saying.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
My heart just breaks for what's going on.
Making sense of the news. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:36, O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here. Coming up later this morning at 8:05, Raymond Arroyo out of New Orleans, as the Super Bowl will be there this weekend. And 8:35, our friend Brett Baer at Fox News Channel. It's Larry O'Connor with Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning. Happy Friday, everybody. We made it.
Yesterday we had Riley Gaines on to do a bit of a victory lap, although I've learned now swimmers don't actually do victory laps, but it's okay. Victory lap nonetheless on the historic signing of that executive order, President Trump mandating that women's sports be protected from male intrusion. That plus a lot of other executive orders need to now trickle down to various parts of the country. Yesterday, the NCAA stepped up. Mm-hmm. They changed their rules, and now men's sports will be men's sports, women's sports will be women's sports. All right. So now what about our famous Northern Virginia schools? Alexandria, Arlington, Fairfax, Loudoun, Prince William, are you listening? Ian Pryor is going to make sure you listen. He, of course, is a dad out of Loudoun County, and the public enemy number one of the Loudoun Love Warriors, let's not forget. Ian, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Larry and Patrice.
So what about it? How are these school boards now going to react to the president's executive orders? And what can you, as senior advisor to America First Legal, do to help nudge them along?
Yeah, well, these executive orders, I mean, fantastic. What President Trump has done in 2.5 weeks is quite frankly amazing. We sent a letter on Monday to the Department of Education asking for civil rights investigations into those 5 school districts: Alexandria, Arlington, Fairfax, Loudoun, and Prince William. And certainly they're not the only ones in Virginia, but those are the ones that really service the nation's capital. And they are not going to change. They still have these policies that allow boys into girls' bathrooms, locker rooms to play in girls' sports in conjunction with the VHSL. And once we sent that letter, they said, look, we're gonna keep doing it. So you know what? They're gonna lose their federal funds. We're certainly hopeful the Department of Education investigates, and if they do, we're confident they will find that these schools are in violation of federal law, and they are not, therefore, entitled to federal funds.
Which is hugely important. I'm just looking at your X feed here, and you posted about Aaron Spence, superintendent of the Loudoun County Public Schools, that he said during a budget meeting they're going to continue, regardless of what the Trump administration is doing, they're going to continue to allow boys and girls bathrooms and locker rooms. So you talked about the defunding of these public school counties potentially if they don't get on board. What is the impact of legislation? I mean, Virginia's got a Democratic legislature, but certainly a Republican governor. What can, from a legislative perspective, be done as well, maybe to nudge Virginia or at least some of those other states along to ensure that that they're abiding by both federal law and now state law?
Well, you don't even need legislation. That's the thing. I mean, these entities here in the Commonwealth have to follow federal law, and you have the supremacy clause, right? State law, like the Human Rights Act, that prevents discrimination on the basis of sex, needs to be read in conjunction with Title IX and the Equal Protection Clause. So there's really, you can go after them, these school districts, under state law. And look, I mean, we've been at this for a while, and if there's a message that I want to convey from America First Legal to these 5 school districts, it's this. They run the schools in the communities surrounding the capital of the United States of America, right? They need to be a model for the country. And until they start following the law, we are going to keep exposing them. We are going to keep taking them to court. We are going to keep highlighting their lawlessness to the Department of Education and ultimately the Department of Justice.
Yeah. Ian Pryor's our guest. Ian, Patrice mentions we have a great governor. Glenn Youngkin's a great governor of Virginia. We have a great attorney general, Jason Miyares. And I know that the easy thing is to sort of shrug and say, well, it's Northern Virginia. What are you going to do? You know, you get what you vote for. But, you know, Glenn Youngkin cares deeply about all Virginians, whether they live in a Democrat-dominated district or not. What can he do now? He was at that EO signing in the East Room. He's obviously motivated by these issues. Can't he exercise his powers as the chief executive of the Commonwealth of Virginia? Can't he empower the attorney general to get in there proactively and do something? These school boards can't continue to flout the law.
Yeah, and no, look, I think you're exactly right. And I think that, you know, for the past 3 years, unfortunately, under the Biden administration and their Title IX rule and their interpretation, it's really hamstrung what Governor Youngkin and Attorney General Miyares could do. But Trump has really empowered them. He's given them the opportunity to say, look, this is how the administration views federal law. Federal law is supreme. State law has to come into compliance with federal law. That's the supremacy clause. So now, you know, hey, President Trump has given Glenn Youngkin and Jason Miyares a runway. And, you know, I am confident that they're going to fulfill the expectations of the people that, you know, really put them into office in 2021.
You know what else I'm confident of, Ian Pryor? I am confident that there is a Democrat politician by the last name of Spamberger who would hate for this to be topic number 1 this year of 2025. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. And I think the irony here is that this issue was forefront in the 2021 election. And I remember telling the Loudoun County School Board that we could do this all day, every day until we saw a change. That was 4 years ago. And you know, to Aaron Spence and Fairfax County and I just want to remind them that I'm still here and I'm not going anywhere. And neither is America First Legal.
And neither is O'Connor and Company and WMAL. And if you think this is a winning issue, Democrats, Ms. Spamberger, you think this is a winning issue, just ask Governor Terry McAuliffe, who's finishing up his second term. Oh, that's right. He lost. He lost in a humiliating way. Thank you, Ian. Always great to talk with you.
Ian.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Miss anything? Don't worry, we've got you covered. Get today's breaking news on the Vince Colonnese Show, weekdays 3 to 6, right here on WMAL.
Do you do the Tay-Tay thing, or do you say T-Swift, or do you just go full proper Taylor Swift, Ms. Swift? Do you have any preference? Just go with it. No Tay-Tay, no T-Swift, no.
I don't know her like that. I mean, I feel like those are very personal nicknames you would give someone.
Her fans seem to be just fine with it. The Swifties seem to be fine with it.
A lot of them are deluded to think they're her best friends. So, I mean, I know people are going to come after me for saying that. But
wow. I'm just moving on. It is the Super Bowl this weekend, and that means it's Taylor Swift all the time because that's all that No, that's not all that matters, actually. The football game is kind of important. In fact, guess who's going to the Super Bowl, Patrice Onwuka?
Yes,
the
President Trump.
President of the United States. Yes.
Now
as
here's
if
my question
security
to you,
in a Super Bowl isn't bad enough. Yes.
Well, here's my question to you. Who's going to get bigger applause and attention, President Trump or Taylor Swift?
Ooh, in New Orleans? I'm thinking Trump because, first of all, Trump carried both states, Pennsylvania and Missouri, all right? And so that fan bases on both sides of the ball love Trump, number one. And the Eagles fans hate Taylor Swift. So you got to think just by sheer math, he's going to get it. Also, well, now this is interesting. Do you think Dr. Jill will show up and root for her Eagles? As you know, Jill Biden, the former First Lady, is a huge Eagles fan.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah, right. I will leave it at that.
So, They had their media day for the Super Bowl, and reporters, of course, run out of football questions to ask, if they even had any in the first place. So, of course, they ask about Trump. Here's Travis Kelce, also known as Mr. Taylor Swift, answering a question about Trump coming to the Super Bowl.
Reaction was to finding out the president would be in the game on Sunday?
That's awesome. It's a great honor. I think, no matter who the president is, I know I'm excited because it's the biggest game of my life, and having the president there, it's the best country in the world, so it'd be pretty cool.
All right, so there is one of those, doesn't matter who the president is, which is always,
Yeah, he threw that in there, but you could tell, I think he likes President Trump, otherwise he would have just said nothing.
So Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs, who, by the way, all of his best friends happen to wear black and white vertical stripes. Patrick Mahomes' wife is famously a Trump supporter. She likes Trump
Brittany
tweets
Mahomes.
and things on Instagram and stuff like that. So he was asked about this. And also Trump mentioned him during the signing ceremony for protecting women's sports and complimented him. So listen to his reaction.
I don't know if you saw the clip yesterday, but President Trump described you as a pretty good winner. I just wondered what you thought about that and how it's going to feel to play in front of him on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, it's always cool to be able to play in front of a sitting president, someone that is at the top position in our country. And so I didn't see that clip, but obviously it's cool to hear that he's seen me play football and respects the game that I play.
All right. So, by the way, it turns out Jill Biden, Dr. Jill, former First Lady, former President, really, Jill, will be going to the Super Bowl without her husband.
That's
so there's the answer to that question. Now, here's what's amazing. We're used to, back in the old days, the president would always call the locker room after the Super Bowl and congratulate the team and congratulate the MVP. That was it. And then they stopped doing it after a while. I'm not sure why. But what's shocking, and I could not believe this when I saw it, Donald Trump going to the Super Bowl in New Orleans this Sunday. It will be the first time in American history that a sitting president has gone to a Super Bowl, which is astounding to me.
Shocking.
I can't believe we've never had a president go to a Super Bowl.
I'm not surprised either. I'm not sure if maybe he doesn't want to have to pick a side. Is that the reason why? Or maybe the security risks would be great?
Maybe security. I don't know.
That's the only thing I could think of. But listen, President Trump has survived two assassination attempts. So at this point, he should be able to go anywhere he pleases.
I hope so. Let's not forget, on New Year's Eve, there was a terror attack in New Orleans, and the city of New Orleans was not incredibly prepared for it, it appeared. Coming up, we're going to discuss that and other things about New Orleans and the Super Bowl at 8:05 with Raymond Arroyo. Also, Brett Baer is joining us at 8:35, and he's going to be doing an exclusive interview with Donald Trump at the Super Bowl. So we'll get into all of that right now. The time is 7:54.